Welcome to the second episode of Behind the Name podcast. My guest today is DingoDoodles,
Hi.
and I guess we can just jump right into it.
Yeah, let's go.
So, you started off not with the YouTube channel, but you started off with the Electric Bunny comics.
Yeah.
S-
Yeah, I started it in I think it was 2012 or 2013, somewhere around there. So I've been at it for a while. um but pretty much what happened was I was in college. I just started college and I was like, I have to do something and put myself out there on the internet. So I wanted to do comics, a web comic for a long time, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it, and I started EB Comics, Electric Bunny Comics. I call it EB Comics because just less of a mouthful. So yeah, I did that for about I think about 6 years until I jumped into YouTube around 2018. So yeah.
So let's say you were freshman in college, and what's was it just the fact of like you felt the need to have a presence online, or it was just one of the things of like, I really like making comics, I'm gonna put it out online just because.
hmm Yeah. So it was a little bit of both. I mean, it was really like I've always wanted to do a web comic, and I knew that I wanted to start working on my art career because um, I went to an art college, and the course was only like 10 months. It was like a diploma or whatever. So I was already in the mindset of being like, okay, I need to start putting myself out there, and it really didn't click to do it until like a teacher in the college kind of approached me and was like, "Hey, you're really good at comics. Like you do them all the time. Why don't you like you can live off of this if you want to?" And I was like, "No way. Like you can live off of this?" And I was like, "Oh man. Okay, well now I'm going to have to try." So it wasn't like I wanted to make money. It was more like I just want to get better. I wanted to get better at it, and um specifically Electric Bunny Comics was me testing out comedy because I'd always been a writer of comedy, just like other people. They just, always try to do jokes. But I decided that I was going to be like, I'm going to really try to get better at writing jokes and doing one off funny things and really make people laugh. That was one of my goals. And originally, when I started the comic, I was like, I want to be like the next Side Nine Happiness. And then I quickly realized I don't want to be the next Side Nine Happiness because it was like their content was so like they had so much, and they had such a huge audience, and I was very much just like I don't think I could handle all of that. So I decided to be like, I'll just try to do my own thing and see what happens.
So, I'm just trying. You said that your goal was to make people laugh,
hmm
and I'm thinking back to Fool's Gold. uh, but I guess before uh we get more into the Fool's Gold,
hmm
um, you switched to doing YouTube. What sort of caused that switch?
So the switch of YouTube was, I guess it was out of a little bit desperation, but I had, in 2016, in October, I had jumped from doing like retail and kind of like a normal stable job and going full force into becoming freelance. Like I jumped right off the cliff and went right in. I got laid off, and it was like, well, I guess I'm going to be doing art. I guess I have to now. So, I pretty much had it where the first month or so uh I had, been making comics. I created a Patreon. though I think I had a Patreon already by this point. So I was starting to work on it, did more commissions, and then one of my comics took off. It was the Sombra comic. It was an Overwatch comic that had depicted like a joke about when like Sombra and the Wi-Fi and stuff. It's an old joke and it went around the internet quite a bit. And a company saw that. It was a company called Star Breeze Studios and Overkill. They made Payday 2 or Payday, and then Payday 2. And they approached me and they were like, "Hey, we really like that comic. Can you do comics for us for Payday 2?" And I was like, "Yes." So I pretty much got a contract within a couple months of jumping off the deep end, um, going into art to do some comics for these guys. Though my contract actually didn't start until like April, so I was like 6 months without work for a bit. And then I worked for them for about a year. So I did comics for them for about a year. And then by that point, I had been doing comics for Payday 2 for like every week or something. And I quickly realized that I didn't want to do comics for the rest of my life. I realized that it was um I had too much of a good thing and it was starting to become like dense, kind of like eating cake too much. It just like it was too much. I had gotten tired of doing one-off jokes, and so I kind of went into this idea of being like, okay, I need to change and do some other medium. So I'm going to do I think YouTube. I'm seeing a lot of storytime animations and I was like, I love that stuff. That's fun. I'd been thinking about doing storytime animations for a long time, but it never really was like at at the front of my mind. It was just kind of a thing that I was like, that would be fun to do one day. And then I just kind of came to the conclusion that I was like, well, I guess this is the time. As soon as my contract's done with these guys, I'm gonna be not able to do like I don't have coming, so it's like I don't know what to do with myself. So I'm going to uh do YouTube, and I had saved up enough money to be able to live off of it for about a year or so from that contract, and I was just like, well, I'll try YouTube for a year, and if it doesn't work, I'll just move on to something else. So anyway, yeah, it kind of I worked I worked on my very first videos. So the intro and the karaoke while I was still doing my contract. So I was like juggling like work and this video, but I actually finished my karaoke video in 9 days, where the entire video is about like 10 minutes, but I did the right, or I didn't even do a script. I just went for it on the mic and then I started to animate it. And I did it all in like 9 days, which is crazy to think about now. And then I had to wait to start my channel until I was done my contract. And then as soon as I finished my contract, the next day I posted my first videos. And then, I mean, the rest is history. So, yeah, it's pretty much why I did what I did.
Was I was gonna say, was there something? I'm not sure if this is like legal legal stuff, but
Hmm.
did you were you, well, let me think of how to word sentences for a second.
No
Um,
problem.
was there something in the contract that said like, hey, like you can't like post any of your own stuff?
No, 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 not at all. I had just been the reason I held off on starting YouTube was because I just wanted to finish the contract. I didn't want to have to think about two things at once, and I was already getting so overwhelmed with just like working on the contract that I was just like I don't want to start this until it's like a clean slate for myself. And it's also kind of like a reward to myself. It's just like, ah, I finished this thing. I'm so proud of myself to be able to finish this contract, and now I get to start YouTube as my reward. So that's pretty much how I went about it.
Right. So then you're you sprinkled some story time stuff in with the Fool's Gold animations,
Hmm.
and I know that you were recently on the panel for um what Comic-Con Africa.
Yes, South Africa.
One thing that was brought to my attention that while Fool's Gold, when that campaign was going on, you said you had two other campaigns running.
Yes.
What made you choose Fool's Gold to animate?
Hmm. Well, I mean, Fool's Gold was one of those campaigns where like stuff had just popped off so perfectly. Like it really was the Tarrasque. Like the wild magic and the Tarrasque that made it go like, "Oh, I really want to talk about this story." I have like a bunch of other stories from other campaigns as well, but that one really stuck out to me because it was such a like a beautiful moment of being like, yeah, he just got really drunk. Like I rolled a natural one, and then the wild magic that happened was this perfect, like all together, like 700-foot radius of permanent dead magic, and then like a terrace burst out, and it was like, wow, you really couldn't plan that, can you? So it was one of those things that I knew I wanted to talk about. And then the series really fell in my lap because the video took off, and originally I had done the first, like the Terrace video, as a complete video. Like you could watch that video and then just be done with it. It's like a complete story, because I didn't know if I wanted to keep talking about it, because I was like, okay, this is good, this is done. And then I posted it, and then I didn't really know what would happen, and it took off, and I was just like, huh, well, I really liked Fool's Gold and how it was being played, and I love the characters, so I guess I could keep talking about it. And it was funny. For about like 6, 7 episodes, I kept jumping back and forth of being like, should I keep going? Should I stop? Should I keep going? Should I stop? And eventually, like Felix, the DM, and my boyfriend, he kind of sat me down and he was like, look, you really like doing this. You're having lots of fun. Why stop? And I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like I guess nobody else is doing this, so I guess I'm going to have to do it. Like the idea of making an animated D&D series, the way well, animated quotation, but like doing a full like episodic retelling of a campaign, I haven't really seen done before. At least not on YouTube. Like I know there's Harmon Quest or something like that, but I don't think it's the same kind of storytelling that I'm doing. So it was this idea that I kept jumping back and forth because I was scared that nobody else had done this before, and there was no evidence of it being successful. So I kept going like, "Ugh, could I should I keep going? I don't know if I'm putting all my eggs in one basket and that I'm just going to fail." But then I kind of went, screw it. I'm having fun, and other people are too, so I'm just gonna keep going and ride on this wave and see what happens.
Right. I was gonna say the karaoke video
Hmm.
was. I think you said that you were level 6.
Yes.
Um, so you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, based on
Hmm.
people like wanting to know stuff. But like in the timeline of Fool's Gold, it
Hmm.
clearly wasn't the very beginning because you're level 6,
Yeah.
and you touched a little bit on backstories with Gothy.
Yeah.
But was Sips the first character that you created in that campaign? Or were you playing other characters that died?
No, he's the one character I made
Right,
um for it. So like, yeah, there wasn't another one previous.
right.
Yeah.
I'm never sure when people talk about like campaigns because they'll be talking about a character and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know how many characters I've had died, and then the DM just looks at me and is like, make a new character.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely played in lots of campaigns where I've just had like just a whole stack of characters going through. Um and just getting killed all the time. But this was like the first campaign where we actually decided that we wanted to tell a story. Like a real story. Like cuz in D&D, especially when you start, it's a lot of just trying to figure out the mechanics, and you're going through combat, and you're playing around with your friends, and you're having fun, and you're just trying to learn the system. This is why like a lot of people are more prone to be more murder hobo-y, because people are just trying to figure out how things work. So they're just like, I don't want to talk to that guy, just murder him, it's fine. And they just kind of move along. But I had been playing about 6 years in D&D, and then we played Fool's Gold, and by that point, I had listened to the podcast, um, The Adventure Zone, and I realized you could tell a really good story with D&D. And I really wanted to make a character that actually had some kind of emotional build and could tell a story through a character. So Sips was my first attempt, even though he didn't start out like that. Like I didn't consciously think about it until about till the Kinora arc, because that's when I actually was thinking about his actual character. Because previously in the previous arcs, I didn't really looking for it, and then he was cursed, and then he was mad, and then he had like sneeze and stuff, and then he was a merchant, but I didn't really understand like who cut it off, how it happened, what happened after, until Felix was like, "Hey, give me your backstory. I might use it in the next couple arcs," and then we just kind of went from there.
And say, I know that that was something you mentioned that was talked about on the panel for Comic-Con was
Mm-hmm.
just like character backstories, and that less is actually a lot more.
Yes. It it really is. It's one of those things where if you allow your DM to take a bit of control, you can get a lot of benefit out of it. And I like to simplify my character's backstory simply because I will get lost in it. Like I will forget stuff. And I also don't like to flesh out a character before I play them, because the world is going to help flesh out their character, and the players that you're with are going to help flesh out that character. Because there's definitely things that my characters have like learned that I didn't expect them to lean towards or something like that. And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't think this person would do that, but I guess they are, or they're more, or maybe they're scared of something that I didn't know they would be scared of, but it just kind of comes naturally, and it's like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I guess that's what the character is," and you just kind of roll with it. I definitely am a believer in just kind of letting the world and your DM help you, not take control, but just help you along. It's a collective storytelling medium, and it's meant to be used like that, at least in my opinion.
And say this kind of goes into having other players like help you create your character, and also not that alignment chart is like set in stone. But what are some experiences you have with like just completely opposite characters being in a party together?
Mm. Um. Yeah, that's always kind of a train wreck. Uh, but there's some really good stuff you can build with it if you have the right players for it. Because the thing is that if you're playing with a group that doesn't understand um, like character growth, or working towards the same goal when it comes to telling a story, it can become a huge hodgepodge. If you have an evil a character, with a paladin or something, like, you're gonna have a bad time if they don't collectively try to work together to become better people. Where right now I'm in a campaign where I am playing with I mentioned it in the panel, but I'm playing an Azamar, and she is very she's lawful. She's lawful good. And I've never played a lawful good character before. I'm always chaotic. I'm not a very lawful person.
Has
So
shown through sips.
yeah, exactly. So I'm playing a lawful good character, and Felix, he is playing more a chaotic kind of charlatan type character. They gamble, they like love to steal stuff, and they're a rogue. So, think rogue, charlatan, very basic. But the thing is that they're both learning from each other on how, like, she shouldn't be so stuck up about some stuff, because she's very much like by the books, and he's teaching her to be like, hey, it's okay for, like, us to break into this guy's house because he's evil and stuff, even though she's like, I don't want to break the law in general. um but there's like this give and take, and while she is also teaching him on, like, how to uh respect one another, and, like, honor, and that not everything has to be shifty. You can look at somebody in the eye and, call them out and have a proper fight. So there's like this really good dynamic that can happen if you are prepared to dive into it. However, if you, like I said, if you have a group that doesn't understand that and doesn't have any push and pull, because, like, the thing of like, well, that's what my character would do, then you're going to have a bad time. And I've definitely been in groups like that where their characters will just completely derail everything, and they'll go off and just, like, completely opposite to what the group wants. And I'm very thankful that I'm not in that anymore, because that was just like, that was early D&D. That was just like, in high school and um early college or something, when you're not really thinking about the characters. You're just thinking about the fun of the mechanics, which is not a problem. I think that's just a different style that, like, people have, and that's fun. But for us, it was eventually just like, okay, actually, I want to see this character grow and create this cool story and dynamic. So yeah, the alignment stuff, it's one of those things where I look at an alignment chart and I use it as a guide. But obviously I don't set my things in stone. Like, Sips is very he's chaotic for sure. We pretty much, like, just call him chaotic because it's just like, is he good? Is he evil? Is he neutral? It's like, he jumps because it's all situational. It's all about, like, how does he feel in that situation and how does he feel towards that person. Um Sips's, like, main core that I keep to him is just like, he'll kill somebody, he will murder somebody, but they have to have a good, like Sips needs to, like, go like, yeah, screw that person. I really don't like that person. They're either like a jerk or they've hurt somebody that I don't particularly like. Like, they hurt somebody I cared about. Like, there's like four people in his life that if you ever come in that vicinity and try to hurt them, he will murder you. And he'll he'll do it in a way of just like make you wish you were dead. Um but yeah, he's not on the alignment chart. He's all over the place.
Then with using like the alignment chart as a guide and all that stuff, and with all the backstory, what's sort of your process for not only creating a character, but designing a character?
Are you talking about like design when it comes to visual, or are you talking about mechanic wise?
Um,
Um,
Either or, like
mhm,
I think visually it's a lot more open,
mhm.
to just like this is what I envisioned, but more mechanically, I guess.
Right. So mechanically, it's interesting because when I create a character, I don't particularly know their alignment right away. Other than unless I'm, like, challenging myself. Like, my Azamar, Bree, she was a challenge because I was like, "I've never played a lawful good character. I'm gonna make her lawful good." So, she's very, simple. I wanted her to be a very simple character. So, like, she's a fighter, and she fights with a giant Oni mace, which is like a maul. Um, so mechanic-wise for her, I made her very simple and very, like, straightforward because that's what her character is. She is very simple and straightforward. She has complex emotions, but she's a character that's, like, she can't really process emotions, so she's just, like, uh, very s just yeah, simple forward moving. Where Sips, when I made him I didn't know his alignment. I knew that I wanted him to deal with his alignment, though. I think I started him as chaotic good, and I knew the curse, if it spread, it would make it worse, like to more evil, which is what I wanted. I wanted some kind of like good and evil kind of dynamic of like pulling um towards one side or the other, and I didn't really know what that was going to entail. Uh and so mechanic wise, I actually based Sips off of uh Zenyatta off of Overwatch. He was really built like that, where I wanted him to have like a curse, and then I wanted him to have healing. He originally did have healing. I took it out of the series because it was kind of confusing, and we all just thought like, it never comes up because he can't heal himself, and he doesn't like anybody, so he's not going to heal them. So it's just like it never really came up. It wasn't really a mechanic we played around with it too much, and originally I wanted something more for it for the healing, but Felix never dove into it, so we kind of left it. Um, but his mechanics kind of started to reflect his personality, and then like the hand and the curse, and I loved that his touch curse became like a big problem for him because originally I hadn't really thought about it. I just thought it was a cool mechanic, and then it slowly was I was realizing, oh, actually that would be kind of messed up because suddenly you couldn't like you can't touch anyone without the fear of like them getting cursed, and that's a very personal emotional thing, and I never really thought about it until it became like in play. And you can also mess with people with it, which is very much what he does. So it was very much like, yeah, his mechanics were natural with that way, so I was pretty happy how that turned out.
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No,
Damn
I
it.
think for the most part you did.
Okay.
Trying to think.
Mhm.
Obviously uh Sips, it's his curse would be sort of his flaw. Like,
Yeah, it's definitely like his physical flaw. um his emotional flaw is very much that he's just he has a an ego about him, you know? Like if you egg him on, he gets mad real quick, and he'll try to kill you. So I can see that as a flaw. Um and he has it where like, you know, he doesn't like to be the mess up. You know, the constant failure. He doesn't like being a failure as much. I mean, like everyone. But he's definitely egotistical. I think that's his biggest flaw. It's just he's egotistical. Um, Even though, you know, in the series you see that he like cares for people, but he still has a hard time giving any kind of emotional connection to anyone. He has a That's definitely one of his flaws, is emotions, connections, which is just like when you create a D&D character and you go into more the emotional side, you start to realize that you pull out stuff from yourself and you kind of put it into the character, and it becomes kind of this like uh amplified version of yourself. So I feel like every character I've created subconsciously create like brings out a small fragment of myself, and just put it in. But that's like a writer's thing too. That's not just a D&D thing. That's like you can, talk to any great writers and creators of a television show, and I bet you, 10 out of 10, all of them are going to be like, yeah, that main character, that's pretty much me. And it's like, yeah, that's how writers kind of go through things sometimes.
Uh, I was gonna say, this kind of brings me to me stealing one of the questions you asked, Joe Cat,
Mm,
is just sort of, and it might be redundant because it might just be Sips, but like, out of all of the characters you've played, which one have you sort of enjoyed playing the most?
mm. See, I really enjoy playing them all like individually. They all have, it's kind of like different types of cake. It's like I love vanilla, I love chocolate, and I love strawberry cake. It's just like all different types of cake. It's hard to choose. I really loved playing a character um that I've only mentioned a little bit in my channel, mostly in my speed paints, but Cooper, which is my sorcerer toucan bird. And he was really fun because Cooper was a pacifist. He had we went through the entire campaign, he only killed one person. And when he did kill that person, it was a big deal because it was like they had just it had gotten to a certain circumstance where they just pushed him so far that, he killed that person, and he had never done it again. And he was really fun in the way because his mechanics were uh very much like a mystery. I didn't really know how I wanted to play him. I didn't really know the character. Originally, I thought he was going to be more quiet and anxious and kind of like a wallflower. But eventually, well, actually, very quickly, I realized that I had to play a character that was more outgoing and more friendly and more like, hey, let's be friends kind of character. Because the character that I was paired up with, which was also Felix's, we do a lot of 2v1s, so two players and one DM. He was playing with me as a paladin, and he was, oh god, a hellbred. I think that's what they're called. It's pretty much like a demon looking guy, and a hellbred paladin, which is very antisocial. And I was like, well, that's not going to work because if we're both antisocial, we're never going to be able to talk to any NPCs. We're never going to get anything done. So I was like, well, I guess I'm playing this character as more of like a flamboyant, in your face, like just kind of neurotic character that was so much fun. And he would solve problems mostly with illusions and enchantments. So he never did any aggressive magic. And I didn't find that out for like months. Like we would play him, and like I would play him, and then it would just be like, oh, I think this character doesn't really want to hurt anybody. So he does more illusions, and he's going to put people to sleep, and he's going to charm them, and he's going to make illusions. And uh yeah, it was really fun to play him. He's definitely one of my favorite characters. If I wasn't telling Fool's Gold, I would have been telling the campaign of that one.
Okay.
Mhm.
I was gonna say, with Sips being a sorcerer and I, my mind's blanking. Ooh, Cooper?
Cooper, yeah,
Okay,
Cooper the
I for some
bird.
odd reason my name was like or my brain was like Connor, and I was like, that's not right though.
You're getting
Uh,
close.
I was gonna say in a Q&A you mentioned that you started off very much like up close and personal rogue and fighter
Mhm.
characters, and then you switched over into liking sorcerers as a class. What what made that switch? Was it just kind of a I need something new, or was it kind of a I'm trying out all of the classes to see what I enjoy.
I think it was a little bit of both, but definitely I had the first sorcerer I ever played was Sips, and originally I started him out as a monk, and we played a few sessions, and I realized I didn't want to play a monk because my previous campaign I played a monk, and I was like, no, I think I'm tired of playing monk. I'm gonna try a spellcaster, and I had played a spellcaster once at the very, very beginning of playing D&D when I was, like, 17, and I don't remember what they did. They were a cleric, and they were terrible, and I really didn't know how the mechanics of spellcasting was. So, I decided that Sips was gonna be my kind of playtest of a sorcerer. I was just like, "Well, I've never actually played a spellcaster before, so I'm gonna try it with him," and we like, wanted to make it fun, so I was like, "Let's put wild magic on it." So, cause the way we have it, because it's 3.5, cause 5e has wild magic in it, but 3.5, they put it's not in the vanilla. It's like wild magic, sorcerers are, like, in another book or something. Like, you have to really dig for it, I think, in 3.5. Don't quote me, but I remember us trying and we were looking at it and being like, "No, we're gonna make our own." So we pretty much just made it where like he's a sorcerer, but he has a percentile chance of going wild. So, which made it way more funner for me because I'm very much a chaotic player, and I know some people actually can't handle having wild magic in their games because they're just like, ah, it messes up too much stuff. I'm like, I love that. I love it so much. And Felix absolutely loves it too. And so did the rest of the players. So it's it was a lot of fun.
I was gonna say, this the wild magic thing just reminded me, um, and I think you might get a laugh out of it, but in one of my classes, I know some people that have a D&D group,
Mm.
and I was jokingly like, "Oh, like let let me know if you need uh another player and everything." And then in the following few days, my birthday happened, and my friend got me a D100 die,
Ooh.
and he had given it to me when I was on campus, and I'd gone to that class, and I was like, "Hey guys, do you need a wild mage?" And I just threw the die down, and I don't remember like any of the comments except for one, and it was literally just like, I'm pretty sure a D30 is the highest legal die to use in D&D. And my brain just broke. I had no idea what to say, and I was like, I didn't know that there were laws. Like, what do you mean?
There ain't no laws.
And like, I don't know, just the wild magic of like, no. It pushes things like outside of limits that
Yes.
that should stay intact. But
Yeah.
just, I think that's one thing that appeals to most people is that like you don't fully have control of situations, and that's kind of just what's supposed to happen.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not trying to speak for everyone, uh, but everyone has their own like sort of appeal to D&D.
Yeah.
Uh, what's sort of got you into D&D?
Well, I started when I was about uh 16, 17, and it was really just like one of my friends, one of my high school friends was just like constantly badgering us. We have a friend group. And these are all guys. Like I was the only girl in the group. and he was constantly like, "We have to play D&D," and all of us were like, "Yeah, no, sounds like math." And it's like, I have enough math to do. So we kind of like put off D&D for a long time until eventually he was like, "Look, I got the books. I got my one set of dice. Let's just go for it, okay?" And then it was like, "All right, fine." And he's like, "I'll DM and it'll be fine." And I was like, "Okay, okay." So we played our first campaign quotations because my God, that was such a hodgepodge. I don't even remember anything from it. Like I just remember the first session we all got we all got like TPK'd. It wasn't like a TPK like we all died, but we all got knocked out by one goblin. Like we all failed against one goblin and we all got captured by this one goblin who obviously was employee of the month or something cuz my god, we all just kept failing all our rolls and just got like knocked out. And then we had played that, and high school, we played it for the year or so, and then high school ended and I went to college, and I met a new group. And I mean, that's pretty much where my origin of D&D came from. But I don't think I really liked D&D uh for like I don't think I liked D&D until Fool's Gold, because I had liked hanging out with my friends, and I liked making stupid jokes and doing stupid things. Like, yeah, I jump off that bridge and you know, uh, suplex the guy or something. It's just like I make stupid attacks on people, and it was fun. But I hated the mechanics. 3.5 is a lot, and 3.5 is a very dense version of D&D, and there's so much layers to it, which is I actually like it now. Like looking back, I'm like I really like 3.5. There's definitely some stuff I took out and we homebrewed out, but like I like how you can really customize it. But back then, I was just like, I'm an art student. I don't like math. I don't understand how any of the stuff works, and I'm constantly asking the DM of like, how do I roll an attack, or like, what dice do I use? Like, it was just a constant battle for myself, and so I really didn't enjoy D&D as like playing it until like Fool's Gold, when we really sat down and made it a story. Um, but I loved just hanging out with my friends. So yeah,
I'm just trying to think.
it's okay.
You you played D&D for how many years before you liked
Six.
it?
6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was just me hanging out with friends. I liked hanging out with friends and doing stupid stuff, but I didn't like the I hated leveling up. Ugh. I still kind of don't like leveling up, but like 3.5 leveling up takes so long. It's just like so many things of being like you gotta find a feat and you gotta figure out what the feat is, and then it's just like, oh god, I forget what the feat is, and you have to go through all your numbers and stuff like that. Where like 5e is nice and quick and snappy, and I love that. But yeah, I didn't really like D&D until like I went through Fool's Gold, because Fool's Gold was just like, oh wow, you can actually like make a story and have like emotional moments and stuff like that, where previous D&D was just messing around and just kind of playing with your friends and telling stories and having fun. But I didn't, yeah, D&D as a system, didn't like it for a long time.
I was gonna say, from the sounds of it, you started off with nobody exactly knowing what they were doing.
Yep.
Do you think that was a good introduction to D&D, or do you think like a better introduction would be like looking for people who actually know how to play it?
I probably would have benefited a lot more if we had known. I did like it that we all didn't know, because we all kind of like we're in the weeds together, you know what I mean? Like we don't really know what's going on, so we're just like, I think that was how it works, and it's like, I don't know, I guess. And then we just kind of go for it, which was fun, but I probably would have liked a group of people who were more um, they knew what they were doing and they were patient. The problem with my friends, in certain parts, is they wouldn't be very patient, especially not with me, because I'd be like, I don't know how to do this, and they'd be like, well, geez, okay, and then they just like, we're gonna move on, and I was like, oh, okay, great. So it's just like, yeah, we definitely had some periods of time of being like, God, none of us know what to do, and we're all getting frustrated. So, yeah, it was it was kind of like it was definitely a learning experience for everyone. But now, that we know the mechanics and even the friends I still talk to from high school, they all play D&D as well with their own groups and stuff, and now we're way more comfortable, and like coming together for like just a game is so much more fun, more enjoyable, because we know the rules now. We know how the mechanics go. We know, like, oh well, how to make up a character like within 15 minutes. You know, even in 3.5, it's like bam. You know it. But like the beginning, it's such a slog, and it really felt like math. It really felt like I was in math class, and I am an artist. So I don't know if that could tell you anything, but I don't do math. I didn't do very well in math in school. So yeah, D&D felt a lot like math to me at the beginning.
And um, going probably should have done questions in a better order, but
Ah, it's okay.
yeah. Uh, Going back into sort of like the YouTube side of things.
Mhm.
Uh, the Trask video kind of blew up in popularity, and you had a massive jump in like subscribers
Mhm.
and viewership. What? I know you made the success video.
Mhm.
What sort of troubled you the most about that sort of leap?
Um, I mean, the biggest thing when you get such a huge audience so quick is suddenly you have a lot of eyes on you that you didn't anticipate. The idea of failure becomes very heavy, because if you only have like, let's say, like 300 people watching you, it's not that big of a deal if your next video isn't amazing. Because it's like, yeah, it's maybe 300 people might not like it, but it's only 300 people. But then suddenly you have 100,000, which I got in the 4 months. And it was like, well, I guess I have 100,000 people looking at me. And if I mess up, 100,000 people will know. So it was really scary. It was really, really scary at the very beginning. And I completely didn't know how to handle it. I cracked quite a bit. Um, but the thing about what I do, and specifically putting yourself out there on the internet, um, it doesn't it shouldn't matter in a way of like, you should just be putting yourself out and doing your best that you can at the time. It doesn't really matter if you have 100,000 people looking or if you have, you know, 300, but that's easier said than done, because you know, the whole thing starts to become quite muddled, because it's the idea of like, well, you're also influencing a lot of people, and suddenly you have responsibilities towards a community that you didn't anticipate. Like suddenly I had messages from hundreds of people and I didn't know what to do. I had had Electric Bunny for, 6 years by that point, and I'd gotten fan mail before, once every couple months. But then suddenly I was getting tons of things, tons of messages, tons of tweets, tons of people just wanting to talk to me all at once. And it was overwhelming. And I didn't know how to handle it. And there's a real sadness that comes with it, because you realize you can't talk to everyone. that you want to. Uh, all the fan mail, all the messages online, and it sounds great when you get it. Like anybody would be like, "Yeah, fan mail, it's awesome." And it's like, "Yeah, it is. It's great. It's awesome. I love it." Uh, I'm sad that I can't reply to all of it. I'm sad that I don't have the ability to split myself up into 10 other people and manage my like social medias and emails and all these things and really connect with these people. Because whenever I would get fan mail with Electric Bunny, I could like sit down and like write whole paragraphs to the person, and then we would email back and forth. Like I would eventually, like, there's some people who have become legit friends to me online because they wrote me fan mail like 7 years ago or something like that, and then we've had full-blown conversations, and we just never stopped talking, and now we're just online friends, we talk all the time. Um, but now I feel like I don't have the ability to do that anymore because I have so many voices at me all the time. So that was kind of like that was a really hard thing at the beginning, was realizing that I kind of had to let go of the idea of replying to everyone and helping other people, because some people, when I had EB, I would be like some people would talk to me and be like, like you really helped me through a tough time with your funny comics or something, and I'd be like, wow, that's amazing, and then we would just like start to really talk, and then I'd like help them through some things, like not like professionally, but just being there, just like talking to them and being a friend, and it was nice, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, as soon as YouTube kind of popped up, I realized I had to let go of that, which was hard.
Sorry, that's like the most
Mm,
in
okay.
depth anyone has ever gone with that question. I,
Well, I'm
I
a
was just
pretty
like,
open book, I
wow,
guess.
okay. Um, and not in a derogatory way, but like the
Mhm,
persona that you um put out online of like, this is who I am.
mhm.
Has that sort of persona stopped you posting any sort of specific content, or
Like Dingo, like my drawing of myself and like the way I am. Um, hmm, that's a tough one because I try to be as honest as possible for when I am talking online. I probably would like to have a little bit more edgier content sometimes, but that's just because like I've always been more prone to dark humor, but I kind of pulled that back later on as I kind of realized that it didn't really fit what I was gonna be going for. So I guess I kind of missed that. But even then, it's like I would do it even if I was just like another persona or something like that. Um, but mostly, yeah, my character's pretty like pretty authentic. Try to be anyway. The whole point of the channel is like me to talk to people, and so I try to be pretty authentic to myself. If I'm not, usually Felix calls me out on it. So yeah, I try to be myself.
okay. In when you were on the panel for uh Comic Con,
Hmm.
the idea of art block came up
Hmm.
and ways to deal with it, and had uh you said that what helps you is finding a hobby that's completely unrelated to
Yes.
what you're working on. What sort of hobbies do you have that isn't shown in your work?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm actually kind of on this journey right now to try to figure out what it is, because recently, like literally in the last 2 weeks, so like after like before that panel, like just before that panel, I decided to be like, I think I need a hobby, because my hobby was D&D, and now it's my job. So I have to try to switch gears, and it shouldn't have taken me this long to figure out I need a hobby, but yeah, it's taken me this long, and I've come to try to do other things like right now I'm building a puzzle. It's a big puzzle, but it's a puzzle. And something simple. I originally wanted to get into Lego cuz somebody I talked to, they're like, "Yeah, on my downtime I build Lego." And I'm like, "I love Lego. Like I would love to do that." So, but then I looked into how expensive Lego is, and I'm like, "Mm-mm. Mm-mm, that's
Like,
way too
I was gonna
expensive."
say Legos could be really expensive.
They're so expensive. It was like I was looking, it was like $400, and I'm like, "What are you doing, Lego? Like that's so expensive." So actually, it's funny. I grew up with a lot of Lego, and my mom still has the big. We have like this big container of it, like those um like they're like totes, I guess they're called. There's like these big boxes. Anyway, we got one big tote of Lego, and I'm gonna ask her to send it to me because it's just like I'll just do whatever I want with it. I'll find patterns online and just build stuff. But I'm really trying to find stuff that like I can build and do with my hands. I guess the only other hobby I kind of have is like I go to the gym. I don't know if that's really a hobby. I enjoy it. Uh, so I try to keep physical, which is really hard when you're an animator. You sit all day. That's all you do. So yeah, I mean, yeah, gym, Lego, puzzles. I love cooking dinners. Don't like baking. Screw baking. I don't I'm good at baking, but I don't like it.
That was a really quick switch to I enjoy this, but this part of it, throw it out the window. We don't need it.
You we don't need that. No, screw that. So, yeah, I love cooking, like, normal dinners and stuff, like, I love savory cooking, so I really enjoy that. We've been watching a lot of, like, Chef Ramsay in the background too of him screaming, which is fun. So yeah, I enjoy cooking, but I can't think of anything else because I'm mostly just like I'm just trying to find my hobbies right now. See if I can pick up something that really like takes up my time when I need some downtime, which is super super important. I'm realizing.
Trying trying to think. Is it more sort of hobby? I was gonna say I know Legos to get your hands moving a bit more, like gym, working out. What what sort of is it only physical hobbies that you're kind of looking for, or
Um, I mean, I don't know what I don't know what mental hobbies would be for myself. Um,
trying to think yoga? Does
I
does yoga
get
count?
yeah. I don't know. I think that might be physical. I don't know. I think
It's a bit
everything's
of both.
physical in a sense. Yeah, everything's a little bit of both. Yeah, I don't know. It definitely is just trying to get my mind on something like yeah, something that's more tangible. I do like play okay, I love playing video games. Um, but I haven't really found some games recently for me to play. I've been playing with Felix we've been just sitting on the couch for LA Noir, which we haven't
Ooh,
played through before. So we're going through that right now, which is lots of fun. Um, yeah, I'm also playing some Animal Crossing a lot, so which is just a nice chill game.
yeah. The big boom of quarantine games.
The Animal Crossing,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Oh.
It came at the exact right time. So
Um.
yeah,
Say I'm trying to think if I have any more questions, and I don't think I do.
cool.
So thank you for coming on to the podcast talk show, whatever this would be considered.
Yeah. A nice
But
fun time of talking.
yeah,
Fun time talking.
so if you want, you can start plugging your stuff so I can edit in links.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you guys ever want to check out my stuff, it's DingoDoodles on YouTube, along with at DingoDoodles for Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr. I don't really have any other social medias. But pretty much, yeah, if you want to check out a series that's just talking about episodically a D&D campaign I was in that has like a really angry wild magic monkey, then I got you covered. You just check me out. See what you like.
Would
So,
recommend.
yeah.
Dude, I still think my favorite thing to do whenever you end up posting an episode is literally just going on Twitter and seeing what you like and like retweet. I think with the most recent episode, it was literally just a picture of you that you posted, like really leaned back in a chair with like a cup of of coffee or tea.
Tears, the tears.
Yeah, the tear. That's what it was. It was tears of just
Yeah.
people reacting to it. Oh, I was dying when I saw that.
It was so true. It was like the whole thing was so it was funny. I mean, I just because I know the series, I know what's happening and like what's gonna happen. And it's just like, oh man, I love this. I love this so much. I love people feeling things for what I do. I think that's my biggest thing. It's just like I love emotions and people, feeling things like the very first time I ever got a message from somebody being like, "I cried at episode 5." I would just like I lost my mind because 'cause I'm like, "No way! No way I could move your emotions like that. Like, that's insane." So, ever since then, I've become addicted.
Would that be considered sadistic?
Probably.
All right. I'm just trying to think, because I know what it's Ross from Game Grumps that makes Mario Maker levels purely to torture people, purely because it makes him happy. It's just yours is emotionally.
Yeah, I really do enjoy people, like, feeling something for what I wrote, it's just like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, you should feel sad because I made it sad," and it's just like it's just total payoff when you're a writer and somebody, like, is like, "That made me cry," and I'm like, "Yes, good."
My goal is complete.
I did my job, so,
Uh,
yeah.
well,
It's lots of fun.
I was gonna say, I guess thank you again for uh responding and coming on. I can let you
Yeah,
go work on whatever you're working on, whether it's the puzzle or
totally.
I don't know, watching Netflix.
Today's kind of a chill day. Yeah, it's gonna be just concept art and puzzles and probably gonna play some more D&D.